So
yes, I think it's time.
It's time now. So wish you all the very best, and you will get the signal from Mr. Pramod.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, 1 minute to go. The countdown has started, I think.
Yes, good evening, everyone. To start, I would invite Dr. S. Jayanti, event coordinator of this month and convener of iSPELL Tamil Nadu Forum, to welcome the invitees and to introduce the Master of Ceremonies. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much to hear your voice. It's very rarely that we hear your voice. With the blessings of the Almighty, we have begun the third session of the month of July. With a heart full of happiness, I deem it a great pleasure to welcome the distinguished academia, learner teachers, budding scholars, and my dear student friends to the 97th Sunday Sahitya Satsang. iSPELL has fostered a coming together of like-minded teaching fraternity to share their experiences and learn mutually from each other. I deem it a honor to welcome Professor Ghanshyam, General Secretary of iSPELL, the brain behind this forum, which has become a viable platform to facilitate and thus elevate us to reach higher ideals and reach the unreached and bring the marginalized to the center. His humble beginning is branching out and reaching the far corners of the country. I, for one, can be a good example to prove this. A teacher from down south in Satu, from Shri S. Ramsamy Naidu Memorial College, on the NH, that is National Highway to Kanyakumari, has been provided with an opportunity to be the coordinator for Sunday Sahitya Satsang for the month of July. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our beloved executive committee members for their blessings and presence in all the Sundays to encourage us. I wholeheartedly welcome Professor Anupama Ora, President of iSPELL India Forum, for being here to give the concluding remarks and distribute the certificates to the stars of the day. As we already know, this month is dedicated to English language teaching. On the first Sunday of July, we had the opportunity to listen to the experienced thoughts of Professor Bhaskaran Nair. And on the second Sunday, Professor Preeti Sharma shared her ideas on blended methods of teaching and learning, which was pertaining to the needs of the present scenario. Today, all are invited to yet another session of learning from the experiences of a resourceful resource person. To lead the show today, we have Dr. Poornima, Dr. Sudeshna Datta, and Ms. Priyadarshini amongst us. I gracefully welcome Dr. Poornima, Head and Associate Professor of English, JSS College of Art, Commerce and Science, Mysuru. She will be deliberating on the topic, Changing Phases of English Language Teaching, Blackboard to Virtual Mode. I welcome you, ma'am. I elegantly welcome Ms. Sudeshna Datta, a teacher with 24 years of experience from Sarada Vidya Bhavan, Kolkata. A Fulbright scholar from the University of Nevada, she has multiple skills to improvising technology in the teaching learning process. I welcome you, ma'am. I joyfully welcome Ms. Priyadarshini, who dutifully and sincerely took up the task of being the master of ceremony for today's session. I proudly welcome my dear academic colleagues, friends, scholars, and students who are present here today to listen and gain from this session. I once again welcome you all to the 97th Sunday Sahitya Satsang. Now I formally introduce the MOC of the day. Ms. J. Priyadarshini is the Assistant Professor of English, Bharat Institute of Engineering and Technology, Telangana. She completed her Master's and MPhil at Bishop Heber College, Trichy. She mastered in English language teaching in her MPhil with distinction and was the academic topper of the academic year. She has completed her PGDT at the English and Foreign Languages University, that is Hyderabad. She has also attended the short-term training on problem-based learning conducted by the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Kolkata. Her areas of interest are ELT, advanced English communication skills training. She has presented papers in numerous national and international conferences and has attended numerous FTPs. Notably, she has been part of the FTP program conducted by Cambridge Assessment English in collaboration with Telangana Academy for skill and knowledge on the topic, developing the 4 skills in preparation for Cambridge English qualification. She worked for Kendra Vidyalaya Sangatam as a TGT English teacher for a short while. She was in charge of the communication skills training program for BTech students from the first to the final year. She was also involved in the online workshop such as e-content development, representing BIET. She was elected the students' favorite. She's a tenor and saffron vocalist. She's an active member of the All to Jesus Youth League and a nature lover, and has bagged many prizes in college level quiz competition on wildlife. A member and student of the coordinator of the Nature Club at Bishop Heber College. She is a wildlife lover, and she has visited most of the wildlife sanctuaries in South India with her students team. Her hobbies are quite interesting: practicing occults, in writing poetry, and mastering the ceremonies related to church and the college activities. I welcome Priyadarshini to take over the session. I welcome one and all to enjoy today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me in this great platform. I feel so blessed and privileged to share this platform with an intellectual peer group. I'm so moved and I'm so happy. It's an honor more than the pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of iSPELL, who has clubbed all of us for the 97th E-Sunday Sahitya Satsang on Changing Phases of English Language Teaching, Blackboard to Virtual Mode. To start with a quote by Chet Holmes, I realized that becoming a master of karate was not about learning 4,500 moves, but about doing just a handful of moves 4,000 times. We are all gathered here to learn and share that handful of moves to be performed on 4,000 different minds. As iSPELL believes that the need of the hour is to blend the trends and mend the minds one can improve and elevate his or her abilities once opportunities are made available. Yes, we are in such an available opportunity, and what we all have to do is to go in the sync with the flow of today's keynote speaker, Dr. Poornima ma'am, Head and Associate Professor of English, JSS College of Arts, Commerce and Science. That's in Mysore, Karnataka. Ma'am has done her master's at the University of Mysore and specialized in the topics of English literature and European classics. She earned a doctorate from the School of Foreign Languages, University of Mysore. She has worked on the topic, the relevance of the Dostoevskian concept of crime and punishment to the modern world. She has 34 years of experience in the teaching field. Her areas of interest are European classics and Russian literature. The subject matter at the moment is changing phases of English language teaching from Blackboard to online mode. The one thing that has not got any replacement is the teacher. How any child searches for his or her mother in a crowd of family. There may be any number of techniques, methods, methodologies, and online forums to learn English. A teacher's touch does magic. From the word of Dr. Poornima ma'am, Only a teacher has the capability of giving meaning to learning without reducing everything to the mere transmission of technical knowledge. Regardless of the revolutionary changes and sea of information available on the internet, a language classroom always necessitates the presence of the teacher. I request you, ma'am, to grace the dais.
Thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful welcome. And good afternoon, one and all who are present here online. And at the outset, I thank Dr. Jayanti, Assistant Professor of English, Sri Ramaswamy Memorial College, Saturu, and also convener of iSPELL Tamil Nadu Zone for giving me this opportunity. And I'm also deeply indebted to Dr. Ganesham for creating such a wonderful platform like Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature to share our views, innovative ideas and methods of teaching English as a second language. And today I think I feel, or I don't know whether it is appropriate to say that today that the acronyms iSPELL indeed gave me a chance to spell out my views on the phases of changing phases of English language teaching, Blackboard to online mode. And when Dr. Jayanti contacted me and wanted to know whether I could be a resource person in one of the sessions of July. And I don't know what made me to accept. Maybe I think it is a great opportunity given to me. And I just said yes to her. And after that, I came to know that I was introduced to her from one of my university colleagues, that is Lieutenant Dr. Indrani ma'am. And I was really happy to be here today. And I think it is, I don't know what I'm going to say. And I just wanted to share, as I said, to my own experiences here. Because what I have seen all these years is that the students who are the learners, whom we consider as the learners, have much faith and trust in the teachers, and they are there to learn a language. And as English teachers, I think it is a great burden and we have to bear that onus. And it is, I think, our duty to lead them in the correct direction. So keeping these things in mind, I wanted to say something about how we can teach English language to the youngsters. And is it possible to make them happy and to understand the nuances of the English language, which is taught as a second language in the Indian context. And because here I would like to say that ever since the dawn of civilization, language has been an ideal and powerful vehicle to articulate our emotions and feelings. And language is never static, rather it keeps pace with the advances in all realms of human endeavor. And in this regard, language plays a very vital role in our life. And speaking any language needs proper pronunciation. And we judge people by the way they speak, and people with poor pronunciation, I can say, are judged as incompetent, uneducated, or lacking knowledge. And so is the situation with English language. So this made me to take this topic because I have seen in these 3 decades that my students struggling with expressing themselves in the language that has been taught to them as a second language in the classroom situation. And when we look into the history and when we consider why English language teaching and English language learning has become such a great important thing in the Indian situation, maybe it is the colonized people, and as well as being a colonized country, I think India was taught to the India has the need to express themselves or to reply in their own language, that is English. And during the British rule, English was taught to the locals to carry out the day-to-day socio-political and economic aspects of life. And gradually, those who having English language in those days, that is English language in the sense, those who could converse with the so-called Babus and who have good knowledge of English were appointed to work for them. And gradually it became the most important quality to secure a good job. That is what I think made English as the most important language in the Indian scenario. So when the British were here as a colonized country, we were forced to learn the language in the beginning to associate with our rulers and then to get job, or rather they made us to learn their language so that we could work for them. So that may be the intention. So whatever it is, we know from the beginning, English provides us or gives us a good opportunity to get a job. And even today, this mindset has not changed in India. And English language plays a very vital role in our education system. So as it is the chief bread earner. So even today, we consider English as a channel or a means to get a good job. So without this English knowledge, we think that it is not possible to get a job. So when we have this mindset, so learning a language only to get a job, I think it becomes very difficult to teach them the language and the structure, the syntax, the grammar, whatever we have in that language as the natives speak that language. And at the same time, keeping this in mind, what made English as an important language, as I said, it plays a very vital role in our education system, as it is the chief bread earner. And good academic performance depends on the richness of English language. See, here what we are doing is that we gauge the knowledge of the student, that is the learners, based on his capacity to express what he has earned or taught in the classroom situation in the second language. And I think this has reduced the talent or the skill of a learner because they find it very difficult to express themselves in the second language. And at the same time, we want them to not just learn the language, but we want them to use it in the correct way as a native speaker does it. And in fact, it is the tool for success of every Indian. That is what we can say. So if you master the English language, you can earn anything. And what we think is that it is one of the tools, or what I can say is that it is the tool, it is the mean to success for every Indian. And as a result, new perspectives on pronunciation, teaching and learning came up into the surface. And several audio lingual method of teaching gadgets appeared in the 1950s, and even in 1960s we have, that was the beginning stages of like tape recorder or this lingua lab facilities. Through that, the English language teachers tried to achieve or to teach to the beginners, to the learners, the native like accent. But soon the linguists realized that a typical pronunciation was unattainable using those gadgets, because learning a second language needs practice. So that we always should keep in mind. So whatever you teach them in the classroom situation, without practice, we cannot enhance our knowledge and as well as speak that language as fluently as they do. So what I can say is that English language teaching, that is what today has become ELT, a passion, and as well as a thirst area for all the English scholars, became a chief feature of Indian academia. And it has experimented with various teaching methods over the past 100 years to disseminate the knowledge of English language to the Indians. So I restrict myself whenever I say a teacher and English language, I restrict myself to the Indian context, and the learner is the Indian learner. And even in the Indian learner, I would like to share my experience with the UG students, since I teach for the undergraduates, and as I know them, since I have the first-hand experience of associating with my teachers, I restrict myself to English in the Indian context and as well as to the UG students. So whatever these ELT or the English language teachers do to improve, to enhance the vocabulary of a student, that is the learner, we find it very difficult to make them profound in that language, that is learning the second language. And many methods, many teaching methods have introduced by the ELT, that is Association of the English Language Teachers. But I think these methods are not only the important consideration, because teaching has many innovative ways, and the teaching techniques, learner autonomy, use of various kinds of teaching materials are also have an importance. See, we use various gadgets, and we use our own methods. We adopt our own innovative methods of teaching. But in spite of all these things, we have to consider the autonomy of the learner, because I think sometimes we are burdening our students with this second language. So that is what I feel. So we have to reduce their burden, and we should see to it that they learn the language on their own will, and they should not feel embarrassed thinking that they have no knowledge of English. So that is one thing. And even the English teachers, the forum of English teachers has been there. I have seen as that even as a newcomer, when I started this career as an English teacher, there was not much importance was given to English language, but the associations were there. And I was a member of the University Teachers Association, and as well as the Federation of Karnataka English Teachers Association. It is there. So through that, we came to know that there are certain methods to teach the language, and primary importance was given to the effective English language teaching, both in traditional method of teaching as well as using modern techniques, which I think came into existence only after globalization. Maybe in the somewhere in the, as far as I remember, maybe in the 1990s, somewhere in the middle of 1990s, when the globalization concept was introduced in India, and when the mobile and all these gadgets that is introduced, maybe it became, that is teaching English using technology became somewhat what I can say, gained more importance, because it has that attraction through, audio and visual methods. But I think those things have their own limitations. And I do agree that even Blackboard teaching has, which we call as a traditional method, it has its own limitation. But compared to using teaching English using these modern gadgets, I think that Blackboard and Chalk and Talk has an advantage over modern techniques. And I don't know what the scholars who are there and the panel members, whether they agree with my opinion or not, but this is what I feel. So when I teach to my students, and at the same time, English as a second language in the Indian situation is certainly a daunting task, given the wide variety and complexity of our languages and pronunciation, diction and intonation, grammar and syntax. So this has to be considered, because every language has its own structure. So that is its own pronunciation, diction and intonation, grammar and syntax. So whatever you teach in the classroom situation, the learner will definitely have the vernacular influence, that is the native language influence or the mother tongue influence. So whatever it is. And what I have noticed is that the more I try to correct them, their pronunciation or the way they utter the word, they fail to utter it or pronounce the word as it should be. Because as an English teacher, I have seen the origin and growth of English language, which has more European words. I say European words in the sense earlier it was Greek and Latin, and later English derived many words from French, Germanic, and as well as other Spanish. And today we can see that English is a blended language of almost all the European languages. So here I think it becomes very difficult to teach my students, because I'm not just teaching them English, but I also have the responsibility of making it convince the students that that particular word, when it comes to the pronunciation, is not originated from England. That is where the English is the native language. And since they have borrowed certain words from other countries or other languages, we have to follow that pronunciation as well. So this is one thing. And at the same time, keeping in mind India's rich, diverse linguistic tradition, which is all too often ignored in the English classroom. See, we have our own languages, and we have diverse linguistic tradition. But when we teach English in the classroom, we often neglect this background of our own students, and we try to attempt to address the challenges faced by teacher. It becomes necessary to understand the teaching methods adopted by the English language teachers, and the need to teach in general and to teach English language effectively in particular is the challenge before all the teachers. And I said, whenever I say teacher, it is English teacher in India, it is a challenge. And what I have seen. So now let me point out. So one by one, as a teacher, as an English teacher, the challenges that I have faced by me as an English teacher, not just me, but I think these are the same common issues we have throughout India. And as I said earlier in the beginning of my speech, that I will restrict myself to the UG classes. So since I teach the undergraduates, and since I have no idea about the primary or other levels of teaching, I want to share my ideas, the difficulties I found, and at the same time, the limitations the students have as far as UG is considered. So that is undergraduate students are considered. And the first thing that I have noticed as a teacher is that gradual deterioration in the interest of learning of English language by the students in the classroom. See, earlier at the beginning of my career, the students were very, very enthusiastic and they responded very well in the classroom. But today, I find it very difficult to address my youngsters, my young friends, because maybe they have their own diversions, and the lessons which we teach in the classroom situation may not have any interest to them. So we think that teaching English language through literature is the best way of teaching them the language. But our students, the present day students, might find it as interesting as other subjects or other things what they get from the social media. And another thing that I have noticed is that the change in the academic system, that is the scheme and the academic calendar. So everything matters here, because earlier we had annual scheme, and now we have come to semester, not just the semester scheme of disseminating the lessons, but as well as within semester we have CBCS, that is choice-based scheme, and at the same time now the new thing, that is NEP, National Education Policy. And I think all these things, from annual system to the current existing semester system, with all these things, I think there is deterioration, not just in the interest of the students, but as well as the texts, that is the lessons we teach in the classroom. And the marking system. So when it was annual system, we had 100 marks question paper, and the course is for 100 marks. And once again, when I say course, it is also a new thing which we learned. Maybe this was quite new to me. And I started listening to course, program, stream, and all these things only in the last few years. Before that, for us, English is a subject, and we taught English for 100 marks, and it is the paper. So English paper was there. So that is as simple as that. But today, a student is supposed to study the program, and in the program he has to select such and such a number of courses, and these courses have certain credits, and he has to carry the credit, and all these things, I think, disturbing the students as well as the teacher. And when we were teaching for 100 marks, I think the students had much scope for creativity, because then we asked, or rather we used to test the knowledge of the student, that is his language knowledge, by making him to write long and lengthy answers. And that gave a scope to the student to imagine, and he might be having his own way of presenting the story, or whatever it is that has been taught in the classroom situation. But today, there is no scope for such a creative activity, because we have reduced the questions to 1 mark, 2 marks, and at the most it will be for 5 and 6 marks. That's all. So what can a student imagine? How can a student express his ideas within that limited, what we can say, that answer or his presentation? And at the same time, he doesn't need any vocabulary to express himself, since we provide everything for a student in the name of study material. This we provide because, once again, I have to blame the academicians who introduced even to the languages COs and POs. So that is course outcome and program outcome. And here, I think I really feel sorry, and I don't want to hurt anyone. But as I said in the beginning itself, it is my personal view. And I say that language learning is not based on course outcome or program outcome, because it is neither a course nor a program. It is a lifelong process, and you cannot stop learning a language. So in the classroom situation, we are just testing whether they are capable of going beyond that class or not. So it is not that we cannot assure that we can say that, yes, this student, a boy or a girl, has mastered the language. No, I don't agree with that, because in the classroom situation, we can give them certain question and to answer that question, and we test whether the boy is able to answer that question. So that has reduced the language teaching, his interest as well as our interest, and on the whole, it has reduced everything. That is what I can say. And there is one thing, from 100 marks, from lengthy answers. When the semester scheme was introduced, it was the paper. The course was made for 80 marks, and then they reduced it further to 70. And now we have 60-40. That is 40 marks. That is 40% for internal assessment. And what we do, how we assess the student for 40 marks in the classroom situation, that becomes another thing. And the thing is that we always will be in a hurry because we run out of time, the stipulated time. We are supposed to complete the syllabus. We are supposed to do C1, C2 and C3 assessment as well. And added to that, we have myriad administrative works as well. And I think in these administrative work and we correcting and evaluating all these papers, I don't think we find time to teach and as well as to prepare ourselves for the classroom. See, that has reduced once again the interest and the quality of the teaching, both the teachers and the students. So that is what I feel. And then now language learning is not scoring, because today we gauge everything by the marks he has scored, and you cannot rate the learner's capacity to express himself in the second language and give marks to him, because once again it depends on the learner's capacity to understand the language, and his background matters a lot. And this makes me to tell me about the diverse in a situation. So in teaching English in the Indian context, that is what I said, because in the classroom we have many types of people, diverse people. So one from rural background, one from semi-urban background, and one from urban background. And as language teacher, I find it very difficult to communicate all these three simultaneously, because the learning capacity of an urban student is much better than a student from the rural background. So when you combine all these students in a single classroom, I think it becomes very difficult to communicate and make them to understand the concept, that is the lessons, and as well as make them to learn the language and speak the language within no time fluently with correct grammar, syntax, pronunciation. And I think all these things are impossible. It is beyond the comprehension of the student. And this once again has made us not to teach, analyze the text. So what we do is that we just summarize the stories. So when you summarize the story, where is the scope for introducing the students to the vocabulary? That is, I'm talking about synonyms and antonyms and other contextual uses of the words. See, from 100 marks, from essay type answer, lengthy answer, today we have come down to 1 mark answer, 2 mark answer, and multiple choices, even at the degree level. This is what I want to say. I want to stress on the point that at UG level, we are doing it, and not at primary or secondary school level. So at UG level, if you do this, where is the scope for a student for imagining things, or for his creativity, or to express himself about his understanding of what he has learned in the classroom situation? So we don't teach anything, rather we summarize the stories and we give them notes. And I think I should use the most sophisticated word. We prepare what? The study materials. So that is nothing but we are spoon feeding them even at this stage. And one more thing is that less use of blackboard. So today, in the name of traditional method of chalk and talk in the name of technology, what we do is that, especially after this pandemic, we allow the students to carry their mobile, which was earlier strictly prohibited in the college campus, in the premises. Now they are allowed to carry the mobile into the classroom. So when we use these gadgets in the name of technology as a modern teaching methodology, we cannot make out whether the student is following the lesson or maybe surfing in some other social medias. That we can't make out. So why we can't make out is the reason is that the number of students in the English language classroom. See, the number is always, I think, somewhere 100, 90, 100 plus. This is what we teach. So when we have such a, I would like to say, good number of students, that is what the academicians say. So in an English classroom, there we will have a good number of students. 100 is good number for them. So we have to teach them. And do you think it is possible to give them individual attention as other subjects do? No, I don't think it is possible to give them individual attention. And the strength in the language classroom, and which is not favorable for the English teacher. And I think, as I said, it is not possible to give them the current, to teach them the current correct accent, grammar, syntax, all these things. And knowledge of neither the native language or the second language. This is the greatest threat to any language, because a student, either he knows the native language or the second language. So that is, I think, almost the trend in almost the entire width of the country. Because from the beginning, what we do is that we send our children to English medium schools. So where the instruction, that is the syllabi, is given in the second language, that is English. And as a result, the student will have no knowledge of the native language, that is his mother tongue or the common language. And at the same time, when he taught in the second language, all the subjects, including the language, except the first language, which is the vernacular language, the student studies everything in English. But the moment he crosses the threshold, his English is gone and he starts speaking or communicating with his students, with his friends, with his peer group in the local language. And when he comes home, and there he will have some other language, which is his mother tongue. So now look at the student, that is the learner, who has to deal with 3 languages at a time. And I think this has made him to learn neither the local language as well as English, which is taught as a second language. And that itself, I think, is the most important thing that should be noticed. And when it comes to academia, it is the indifferent attitude of the students, I think, towards learning because of the text. So it is not just the gradual deterioration of the interest. There is, I think, deterioration in the quality of the text as well. Because in the beginning of my career, as I have noticed, we used to teach only English lessons. I mean to say, within inverted commas, only English lessons. So then I think we had some advantage of learning English vocabulary. But today, in the name of globalization, There is a tremendous change in the syllabi that includes content from other English-speaking countries, which might have disinterested the students. That is what I think. So earlier when we had only Shakespeare, Wordsworth and Chaucer and all those great British writers, in fact, I was very happy to teach them, because I love to teach even today Shakespeare, especially Wordsworth. And he is very much relevant to any period, any time. But today, in the name of all these theories, isms, these texts have been introduced in the English language class. So do you think it is possible to teach English language through other English textbooks? So other English, what I mean that is that other than English writers. So this, I think, is another cause for deteriorating standard and why we find it difficult to teach English language to the students. And then added to this, I have already said the diversion due to social medias. The moment I utter a word, and if I want to test the knowledge of the student, if I ask him, so what is the meaning of such and such a word? And you know very well what the student will do. So he will just, because I think, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Okay. So I think he will look into his mobile, not the dictionary. So he will look into his mobile and immediately pat comes the reply. And we think that, yes, the boy, the student is very good and he is very well, I think he is listening to my lecture, and I think I'll be very happy and I congratulate the student. I say, good, your answer is correct. But the thing is that the students are cheating the teachers, because they look into their mobile, they get the answer from the mobile, and they respond to the teacher. And this will definitely curb his language learning. And that is one more thing. And another important aspect that should be noticed is that the students learn English through their own language. That is, they translate everything to the respective vernacular languages. See, that is another thing. And so they find it very difficult to translate and hesitate to participate in a conversation or to speak. So this translation method. And further, what I have noticed as a teacher is that the language learning methods used in the classroom situation only give English learner part of the language knowledge, and it is never the whole thing. See, we are giving only the part of the English knowledge and not the whole thing. And lessons taught in the classroom teach them only grammar rules, but not how to use grammar without thinking when they speak. So maybe that is another thing what makes them or hesitate them to have fluency in English language. And they learn to read and write formal English from textbooks, but they get very little training in listening to and speaking casual, conversational, spoken English. See, how we test the student is that we ask them questions from the textbooks and we ask them to write the answer for that. We never train them to listen to our lecture or anything else other than the topics that has been taught in the classroom situation. So when you never listen to, how can you reproduce or how can you say, utter that word? Because we learn the language by repetition and imitating our teachers or at home, our elders and especially mother. So this is how we learn the language. And when you translate what has been taught in the classroom in English to your respective mother tongue or local languages, they might fail to comprehend the real meaning of the word, because a language most of the time is used in a contextual way, because there is no perfect meaning for a word, and always we teach depending on the context. And this comprehension is the key element for understanding a language. And no teaching results from incomprehension or from comprehension without effort. So comprehension without effort is that a student will never try to comprehend, that is to understand what has been taught, because what he thinks is that anyway at the end of the session the teacher is going to give the notes, why should I listen to this? So that indifferent attitude is there. So this becomes, whatever effort we put to teach them, I think these are the things that has made the English classroom very dull, and as well as the students have no interest in it, because it has become marks oriented, grade oriented. And the student comprehension and production, as I said, are the two different stages of single process which the students lack today. And all English learners, whether it is English as L1 or L2, should begin with comprehension and not production, as English learning is no different from learning the native language. And I think these are the limitations of English. I can put only a few here. Maybe you have your own limitations in your own classroom situation. So keeping all these things, I think comprehension and teaching and how he responds to it. And here I would like to give you one example again from my classroom. The other day, while I was teaching correspondence English, that is commercial correspondence to the BCom students, I never expected such an answer from one of the students, because I was dictating the letter and I said in the heading, they are supposed to write Mrs. Madan and Sons, Madan or something else. And all of a sudden I had a doubt, because I wanted to know how they are going to write this Mrs. Madan and Sons. And I asked one of the students, how have you written messes, and what is the meaning of messes? And he said messes is a hotel. That is what he said. See, he has reduced the messes in the commercial context to that of a mess where they get food. And this is quite a new thing for me, because his comprehension of that word is only that much. So here again I have to tell him, again I have to explain him about all these things. But once again, it is very difficult to teach them. And in this regard, comprehension and the balance should be achieved while giving importance to the competence and performance of the learners. So keeping all these things, we have to maintain the balance in the classroom. And once again, when what I have observed, sometimes the students whose English is quite clear and even they do have correct pronunciation, but they may not have enough knowledge about the mechanisms and the rules of producing certain words and sounds. So this is as far as the urbanites are considered. So the students with rural background, they have their own issues, and the students with what I can say elite and aristocrat family background, who have studied from the beginning only in the English medium, they have their own limitations. And such students are taught only how to perform English pronunciation, but they still remain theoretical part of it, still remains a limitation for them. So therefore, they cannot participate in pronunciation teaching unless they acquire knowledge of what they pronounce. So as I said, the limitation, how they understand the word, and the context in which they use the word. And it also makes an in-depth analysis of the traditional methods, techniques and approaches adopted by the teachers, and suggest innovative techniques of teaching vocabulary. So we just not teach them pronunciation, but we also teach them vocabulary. And considering the responsibility of teaching English to undergraduates, I have already said it, I think empowering the youth by means of enhancing their employment potential necessarily involves enabling them to attain fluency in English. So which can only be achieved by listening and repeating and reproducing the language used by the teacher. So that is what I think lacking in the classroom situation. And one more thing, I don't know, many may not like it or agree with me, but it is an undeniable fact that of late, maybe with the introduction of concept of globalization, the knowledge of English, that is English language, has become a universal requirement, and relations between nations and people. So earlier, as I said, in India, people started learning English to get the job in the British Raj, and gradually it remained the most important thing to secure a good job. But today, our youngsters had to compete in the global market, and in this global market, it becomes very difficult for them to learn the language, and therefore more and more employees in the global context, employees look for young people who are not only conversant but also fluent in English. So the foundation for fluency in English as native or foreign speaker, I think, has to be laid very early, say as at the primary level, because here we can only enhance their power, enhance their capacity to use the language. That is, we can refine their pronunciation, their vocabulary, but teaching the language in a proper way has to be done at the primary level. So this once again, as I said, in India, we have English medium schools where the medium is that, but what they are teaching at that level also becomes important. So student, as the students translate everything, it becomes a difficult process for them to use correct pronunciation or have the fluency in the English language, and they hesitate to speak or communicate with each other in English. And then here I think to some extent we cannot overlook as well as the technology used by the English teachers, English language teachers. And to some extent, it is possible to make teaching English language more practical and learner-oriented with the help of technology like Language Lab. It is there. So where you have all the facilities where the student can listen to, because we have all this reading, writing, speaking, and listening skill in the Language Lab. But is the student is once again interested in learning language in that Language Lab? So that becomes, because as I said, even modern technology has its own limitation, and the limitations, as I said, the classroom limitation, even the technology has its own limitation, because when we use in the modern days the technologies to teach English in a classroom situation, the student may not get a chance to speak. That means express their doubts. So I don't know, once again, if I say Alexa or Siri, if I take them as an example, they will never clarify our doubts. Alexa can help you. Even Siri might respond to you, but to what extent? So technology, even this social medias have their own limitation. And sometimes what happens, students are interested in watching the videos rather than listening to the lessons. See, we have audio visual gadgets, and we consider it as one of the teaching methodologies. But how can we consider that the student is listening to the conversation as well? Maybe he was just watching at the video, the visuals, and then what happens is that the learner might try to imitate the action and not the words. That is, the visual attracts him as against the audio. And then there is no scope for repetition, and there is no chance for creativity, because everything is given to them ready-made. So there is no chance of visualizing anything. And here I would like to give the example of Wordsworth Daffodils, because Wordsworth says, whenever I was in a pensive mood, I would like to sit and recall that beautiful daffodils. That is what he says. The thousands of daffodils in the breeze, swinging and dancing in the breeze. That is what he says. And when you teach that small poem to the students, and at the same time, if you make the students to watch that poem on the visual media, what the students will do, they just watch the movements, and they never have that imagination, the creativity. So it lacks once again their vocabulary, their effort to speak and repeat. And I think these social medias lack body language. See, body language along with the words, that is, I think, the best way of teaching the language. And the monotonous tone without voice modulation and intonation. So that is another, the drawback when you use technology to teach a language. You might say, I think after the session, I might get questions regarding these things. But what I have noticed is that most of the time, the gadget that to which we address, or the gadget that speaks to us, I think the tone is very, very monotonous, and there is no intonation. I think the modern technology might teach you the pronunciation, but at the same time, the stress, the intonation, please, how it should be pronounced. And the technology might say, in this context, you have to say, please, in this way. And this is how the syllabi stress should be. All these things are there. But when in the real life situation, please, how you utter this word. So it depends on the context. So you don't use the word please as you use with your friends. And I think in the Indian context, we never use that word at home. And when you enter into the staff room, and at the same time, when you meet the principal or head of the institution. So the same word, please or thank you, has its own way of utterance. And that is what I say, the intonation, stress, and all these things. So all the learner, I think, learn these things by his own experience. And another thing is that no contextual use of words. When you use this technology, a student, as I said just now in the commercial correspondence class, the student taught messes as hotel. So if you ask that, I don't think there is a chance to ask question for the gadget, and at the same time, the gadget may not be programmed in that way, because it is quite unexpected. How can you say messes to that of a mess or a hotel or a restaurant? So this becomes, I think, quite difficult to teach English through using this modern gadgets. And the most important thing, when you use these modern gadgets, technologies, they lack love and affection. See, the rapport between a teacher and a student is the most important thing when you teach something in the classroom situation, and that rapport is missing when you use this technology. Of course, the mentor will be there. They might looking at the PPT or whatever is it, they might try to explain it. But at the same time, the technology itself cannot establish that rapport with the learner. And what I have noticed, this the usage of technology, especially in the last couple of years, after this pandemic, I think has become more and more using in the classroom situation. But I don't know whether this pandemic, as far as English language teaching is considered as a boon or a curse, because all of a sudden we have started learning so many things, and there is so many new words. And what I said to Jayanti ma'am, that I am not tech savvy and I don't know how to use these gadgets. So I have my own limitation and I don't know how to use these things. I don't know how to log in, how to use, and while making the PPT, I don't know how to prepare the slides. So all these limitations are there. And that itself, I think, is a limitation for a language teacher. And teaching methods come out with, we have to have our own innovative methods, whether it is the traditional way of teaching or using technology. Each teacher has his or her own way of teaching a language in the classroom situation, because in the diverse background of India, in a country like India, we cannot teach throughout India the same way as a teacher teaches the same lesson to a South Indian or to a North Indian. And especially we use, of course, we are not supposed to use, many a time we use our local language or the vernacular language in the classroom situation. So the context and the comprehension of the word meaning differs from student to student. So hence, there is, I think, a pressing need for the academicians to rethink and revamp their teaching strategies with the changing times. So in the beginning itself, I have said that I'm not an academician, I'm just a teacher. And I said to Jayanti madam, I'll just be sharing my limitations and what are the issues I face in the classroom. And I think it is time for the so-called academicians who frame the syllabi to look into it, whether it is possible to make the English language classroom more interesting. So they have to reconsider everything. And when there is a willingness to change, there is hope to progress in any field. So that is also true. So they have to make an attempt to change, and we have to accept the new situation. And English language teachers and researchers and linguists should understand the necessity to meet learners' needs in view of international communication due to globalization. So it is also there from vernacular, from the colonial period to that of the globalized sense. We have to enhance, we have to empower, and we have to learn many ways of communicating ourselves. And here once again, I would like to say one thing, that whenever earlier, maybe 10-15 years back, whenever somebody asked me, how are you? And I used to say, yes, I'm fine. But today I can't say I am fine. And my children, especially my daughter, said, no, it's not I am fine. You should say I'm good. See, that too, using American accent. See, this is how the language teaching is changing in the due course. So that is what I think. And we have to change, and we must be open-minded to learn whatever change is there, whether using the traditional method as well as the modern methods. But whatever the argument is in this respect, this is my personal opinion. I think none can replace a teacher. See, whether you use the, I think there are myriad of social medias, apps, teaching apps are there. In spite of all these things, the technologies we have today, teacher is the best solution to teach the learner, that is English language learner. And already I have said a Siri or an Alexa is definitely not a good choice. And you might ask Siri, Siri might do all your work, but at the same time, what sometimes how these things goes wrong when you say something and Siri understands it in some other way. As I said, the context and the pronunciation and the vocabulary, the stress, the intonation, everything matters a lot. And traditional chalk and talk is better option as against impersonal PowerPoint presentation. That is what I would like to say. So there is an impersonal, detached thing when we use a PowerPoint presentation in the classroom situation. And once again, I stress the point that only a teacher has the capacity of giving meaning to learning without reducing everything to mere transmission of technical knowledge. So that is what I would like to say. And only a teacher can build emotional, educational relationship with each student, and the student must feel welcome and loved for what he or she is there, and with all their limitations and potentials. Only a teacher can teach the student. And I would like to am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. I think something went wrong with my monitor. I don't think my video is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, my video is not there. So I don't know.
Do you want to share anything?
No, there is nothing to share. I'm about to conclude my speech. So in this direction, I would like to say that teachers' task is now more necessary than ever. That is especially post-pandemic period. That is what I would like to say. See, more than that, anything, in spite of all the modern technologies, teachers' presence is very much necessary in the classroom situation. And then I would like to conclude my views on English teaching, English language teaching, reiterating once again the point that for a language learner, teacher is the best option, because nothing can ever replace a language teacher. And in this regard, I would like to say, can a library do it? And can the sea of information that is on the website can do it? That is satisfy the hunger of a student, that is a learning hunger of a student. And my answer to this is a big no, because only a teacher, none of them can replace a language teacher, because only a language teacher has the capacity to influence and to inspire the learner by his or her body language, emotion, intonation, pronunciation, stress, and a good teacher-student rapport. So that is the most important thing. And with this, I would like to conclude my personal opinions on English teacher, and that too in a classroom situation. And once again, I thank the organizers, Jayanti ma'am, for coordinating everything. And I also thank Ms. Sudeshna Datta, assistant teacher and teacher educator, Sharada Vidya Bhavan, Kolkata. And I also thank Anupama Vatra for sharing this session. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all once again. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, we will be going to the next thing, that is questioning session, ma'am.
Yes.
And feedback, of course.
Okay.
Priyadarshini, you can take over.
Now the forum is open for questions and doubts to get clarified. Kindly unmute and raise your questions, or please use the chat box to reach us with your queries.
One more thing, ma'am. Since my monitor is not visible, I don't know, something went wrong with my video.
It's
so
not a problem.
You are visible, ma'am.
You are visible to
Audible and
us,
visible.
ma'am. And the questions will be read out if they are in the chat box.
Okay. Because nothing is visible on my screen.
Okay. We are able to see you, ma'am. You are looking beautiful.
Okay.
Yes, Priya. If there are any questions, Are they? I think there were some responses. Yes, we have much.
Okay.
We find some responses for your, like, let me read some of their points.
Am I visible?
I think.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're visible.
Okay. Then it is with my monitor, I think.
This comment is from Ms. Rashida. Ma'am, you are pointing out at all the realities so well. In all these are situations where we are left with no satisfaction of teaching and getting contented about our passion to teach.
Yes,
it seems
that's
like,
very much true.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think these in my lecture itself, I think I have clarified the interest, deteriorating interest, not just with the learners, but as well as with the teachers. So even I came with a passion to this career, but gradually I'm losing that passion. And every time I, what I can say, that console myself saying, okay, another 2 more years to go. After that, no more teaching and nothing, and I will be happy. I'll be free from everything. That is what I say. So I have lost the passion of teaching. So it is there. Maybe I think it is from both the sides. As I said, maybe the lessons that we teach in the classroom are boring. For me, it is not that interesting. The choice of the syllabi and the way they have reduced the quality of teaching lessons. That is what I think where we have lost the passion.
Yes, ma'am. Another comment. This is from Pushpa Poornima. I think judicious use of technology in teaching can be encouraged, but real classroom teaching, blackboard is ideal.
Yes, that is what I said. Judicious use of technology. We allow the students to carry the mobile into the classroom, but it doesn't mean that they can open any social media in the classroom situation. That happens, considering the student strength in the classroom.
Yeah, probably, ma'am, we can use it as a kind of a teaching aid sometimes, but not otherwise, I feel.
Yes.
And I gel with you very well because I have also another 2 years to go. And the same feeling I have. Just now you mentioned, it looked as though you spoke really the words of my heart. So that's exactly.
See, all these days we used to say the word generation gap. See, now I think we are feeling it. That generation gap is there because my children have started teaching me.
Yeah, that's true.
That is what happens. They say that my pronunciation is not good, my English is not good. They say that I hesitate to speak. And what they say is that I cannot go with them at par. So that is what they think.
Yeah, and also we can use technology based on the kind of subject and theme that we're going to talk about in the classroom. It depends on the subject. Not all subjects would require technology that way. Okay.
But what I have noticed is that most of the youngsters in my department, my young colleagues, they use this mobile, they take mobiles to the classrooms, and instead of teaching, they show the pictures. That is what I say, pictures in the class using their mobile. And,
the use of mobile in the classroom should not be entertained.
By the teachers, it is there. It is very much allowed because of this
PPT presentation or something of that kind. If the college can provide, it all depends on how rich your institution is as well, and the kind of networking facility that you have.
Yes, we have Wi-Fi in the college. That is what I'm telling you. They prepare a PPT. They take their mobile with the PPT and they show that PPT in the classroom. That is what I said. They use mobile in the classroom, whereas I use Blackboard. So that's the difference. Once again, the generation gap. And they don't prepare anything because if a student has a doubt and he wants to know meaning or synonym for a certain word, immediately they open their dictionary in the mobile itself.
I know.
They don't carry it in their head as the village schoolmaster says.
I know.
That poem is so good, The Village Schoolmaster. All the village wonders how much a teacher can carry in the small head. That is what the villagers say. But today, look, these youngsters, they carry nothing in their head, but they carry everything in the gadget. And if the gadget is gone, everything is gone.
I know. Yeah, that's true. So thank you, ma'am. It's wonderful.
Okay. I think something went wrong with my monitor. I missed everything. In the end, I don't know what happened with this, and I don't know how to correct it.
I'll share the YouTube recording, ma'am.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your beautiful rendition and for graciously acknowledging all our doubts, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
It's time for Ms. Sudeshna Datta, ma'am. The chairperson of today's session had already welcomed all of us before we welcomed her to this session with a beautiful smile. Ms. Sudeshna Datta, ma'am, has been teaching English and vernacular to secondary school students at Sarada Vidya Bhavan Government School in Calcutta for close to 2 decades. She also works as a trainer and module developer in the teaching training programs conducted by SERT of the Department of Education, Government of West Bengal. Ma'am has a master's degree in English literature and a B.Ed in education from Calcutta University and Jadavpur University, respectively. Ma'am has engaged in action research with the students under the guidance of British Council, from where she has collaboratively published an activity manual for teachers. She has also undertaken research on classroom teaching with Warwick University. As a social worker, ma'am is associated with an NGO which provides support to underprivileged students in the area of basic education and cultural awareness. Datta ma'am has more than 24 years of teaching experience and is a Fulbright TEA program awardee. During her Fulbright at University of Nevada, also accumulated multiple skills, including improvising technology meaningfully for classroom teaching and making language class more interactive, besides getting involved in online and offline modes of teaching American students. I welcome Ms. Sudeshna Datta ma'am to take over the rostrum.
Thank you. I am not good evening to all of you, all those people who are just listening to all these things, which might seem very boring in the Sunday evening. But thank you so much, Dr. Poornima, for pointing out nicely and sharing your own experience as a learner, language instructor. Dr. Poornima has nicely dealt on the history of language study, why English is so important in our country. And she pointed out rightly whether to focus on accuracy or fluency, whether it is a communicative technique that we should pay more importance to, or to literature, learning the language in depth. She pointed out to the teacher's role to enhance vocabulary innovations and through learners' autonomy, giving learners the autonomy, how to use those, she has pointed out. And she talked about technology gained more importance, how technology is actually started ruling over. But finally, from her discussion, we come to understand, and we do agree also, that there is actually no solution for language learning in the class, if it is not in the classroom. So any kind of technology, any kind of blended mode or anything, whatever, nothing can actually evade the age-old traditional method of face-to-face teaching that she has pointed out. And I'm glad to, when I was listening to her, sometimes I was thinking that, yes, she was talking about the students, why they are lagging behind, why they are not responding as they used to do. Yes, in our childhood days, we used to learn through the grammar translation method, ma'am. And I'm very sorry to say that still now, in most of the government school, as I have seen in West Bengal, teachers are teaching English through Bengali. That is the vernacular. So the use of grammar translation method is not obsolete. When we're talking about approaches, academicians, we are debating on the issues of constructivism and so many things. But in the classroom situation, just the opposite thing is happening. We don't know how to construct knowledge. So why students are failing to reach that level? Maybe as a teacher, teaching for 24 years, not only the students, but also the would-be teachers, because I'm a teacher educator at the same time. So I felt that it is our lacking also. You won't be believing that at the age of 52, I had to sit for TOEFL for joining Nevada University course. And I felt that such interesting questions are in TOEFL. And I never found. My son was telling that, Mama, you will be failing because you can type properly. But something I felt that, yes, as they are growing up, as we are giving them the scope, the students, we should also learn along with them. But ma'am, you pointed out that, yes, every day they are trying to teach us something. I admit that I have learned so many things from my students. And these are also the positive aspects. One thing, so I am not dealing with the entire thing what ma'am has done. She has shown us the light that why these things are happening. But today I want to point out to one vital issue, why such shift is required very drastically, very radically. Why such shift is from 2019, I think it started, and we have to change our modes radically. And we face troubles, not only the students, because they were in an advanced stage than us. If we compare them, they are more advanced than us because they knew how to use the gadgets, what to do with the WhatsApp, what to do with Facebook and other social media, which we didn't know. So who lagged behind? I think I have seen teachers are lagging behind because they didn't have proper training to cope up with the situation. So, but yes, then all these discussions, all these debates came in front that whether technology is going to replace a human teacher, is it really possible? I always feel a teacher can do the magic, what no one can do. Even a magician can't do the magic what a teacher can do. From my experience in my school, I'll tell you that when I started teaching an elementary student, a secondary student of class 5 in 2019, and in 2021, she has been promoted to class 7, 7th standard, without coming to school, not for a single day after the pandemic. So you see what magic I have to do. So I couldn't actually touch even that student for a single day who used to depend on me, who used to enjoy my classes. And because they actually love me very much because I'm very much friendly with them. But it was a failure from our part. I don't know why we failed. We failed because we couldn't provide them with the gadgets, with the network, and it is not possible in a country like us. It is even not possible in the advanced countries. How many of in the rich countries I am also talking about, because just recently during the pandemic, I went to America and I taught the American students. I found students don't have the internet access to, because in one house, they are having only 2 laptops and 4 and 5 children are there. So how they will be doing the classes? So who will be doing the magic? All the responsibilities are coming to us. Yes, you have to do it. Your ma'am told about the undergraduate students, And when I teach the teacher trainees, and I find they don't know anything about what is all these things. They only want ready-made notes. They want us to give them something ready-made, they'll mug up and they'll just vomit in the answer sheet. So in spite of all these things, still the positive thing is that I will be just reading through 1 or 2 points of UNESCO report after this post-pandemic. There are 9 very important issues they have actually pointed out that what we should do during this, why technology and teacher, how we should balance those. And in that, the 5th one, I'm not going through all the 9 things because it will just go on, the time will pass away like that. The 5th point is the UNESCO report, and that has been showing us a clear picture of inequalities. That has been revealed very sadly, very dangerously during the pandemic, that what we are doing with them. You talked about the urban students, the rural student, and the students, and I am teaching in the urban school, but students are coming from the background where they don't have anything, no literacy, 0% literacy. They're dwelling in the slums. They don't know, even they don't have pencils. You won't be believing they're coming to the school only for the midday meal. So how to cope up with all these things? Who will be doing the thing? And that the 5th point in UNESCO report, I'm just reading it out. We have to protect the social spaces provided by schools as we transform education. The school as a physical space is indispensable. So even they have pointed it out in the post-pandemic period. Traditional classroom organization must give way to a variety of ways of doing school, but the school as a separate space-time of collective living, specific and different from other spaces of learning, must be preserved. So we have this very, it's not only because an international organization is telling this, but we feel it throughout. When after the post-pandemic period, when we are coming face to face, we can find a smile in the faces of my children, how they're laughing, how they're loving, even they're touching the walls when they're coming to school, as if they're missing the life themselves. So we must be knowing in the slums when they are staying 11 or 12 people in a single room, 10 by 10 feet by 10 feet room. And when they're coming to the school, that room becomes a love space for them. So that we have to preserve too. So it's our duty, I think always, that it's our duty, even in this, and what ma'am has correctly pointed out, in the post-pandemic period, our duty is to be more sincere. What we have done, we have done. What traditional methods we have followed, but we have to update ourselves. You know, I am doing my TESOL course again now. So I had to stop going to seminars and other things because I have to learn something. I have to learn something. Why? To teach my students in the new way, because they need it. I know there are students in my school and in other schools, even in the urban sectors, where they have no one to give them exposure in the target language. And ma'am, as you know, ELT means our target language in India is English. And without English, it is very difficult to live. Reading a pamphlet, an advertisement, even reading the messages, I used to tell them, even if you want to write a good love letter to your boyfriend, you have to know good English. So, and even if it is not good English, it is actually, at least they can communicate in English. So who will be giving them that care? Who will be giving them that courage? We, the teachers, can do. And one thing that has given me some positive feedback, that while going through many research papers throughout because we all know that throughout the world, teachers in ELT, mainly the ELT practitioners, they are actually researching on the thing that how it can be the lesson, the lagging behind of the students can be evaded, how they can cope up with the situations. So I'll be just going through one report. I found it very interesting, and that is, it's by, yes. And this current crisis is reminding us how crucial English language teaching is in societies, communities, and in individual lives. It is the language in which a learner can explore the net world. Even technology, for technology, we require the language. Without the knowledge of English language, we can do nothing with the technology. It is a language in which a learner can explore the net world, blended learning modes, app-dependent learning teaching methods, media notifications, campaigns, and so many vital aspects. A learner's exposure depends on his or her ability to communicate in English. So ELT is so important. Why English language teaching? Because this rapid movement from the blackboard to the virtual classrooms, to the Google classrooms or whatever it is, Zoom or Meet and everything, we need a language to communicate, and that is English. It is impossible for a student without having the competency to communicate in English, to join the meetings, to see all the notifications and everything. So these are the basic things that we should give them. Salvador Montaner Villaba and Jesus Gracia Laboda, in the paper named Current Trends in ELT Educational Communication During Crisis. It is an overview to the special JLE. They refer how rapidly the pandemic has brought to overall new habits of living, and more specifically, educators as well as language instructors from all over the world have had an urgent need to rapidly change teaching habits so as to adapt to an online teaching. So this shift from blackboard to technology was a must thing. We had to do it because we had nothing. It is not a lavish thing or a luxury that we are relishing over, but it is a must thing. We had to do it.
Please excuse me, ma'am. I
Yes.
think your time limit is over. It is it is so nice to listen to you. But since we have to stick to the time, I am in a position to stop you.
No, it's okay. It's
yes,
okay. It's
fantastic. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
If you can give your concluding remarks on the session, ma'am, it will be very helpful.
Yes.
I'll give you about a minute or two. Is that enough, ma'am?
Yes. And so for Dr. Poornima, I'll be telling that, yes, you have very correctly pointed out that the real problem is with the teachers, because we are also lagging behind. We cannot give the students what they're really they want. So we have to update ourselves. So that is what I want to say in this evening. Thank you so much, Dr. Poornima, for sharing your very practical views. And thank you, Jayanti.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being so understanding. And you will be given a platform again to voice your views, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Priyadarshini?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate and thank you for agreeing to chair today's session with your presence and refined reflection, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I request our guest of honor, Professor Anupama Ora, President iSPELL India, to deliver her concluding remarks and distribute the certificate.
Thank you, Rashmi. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Poornima, for the insightful talk, and to Dr. Sudeshna also. We are thankful to you for doing equally insightful comments, I must say. Well, friends, another Sunday intellectual feast we have enjoyed, which has opened new vistas of introspection as to what is expected from especially English teachers in the present scenario, when COVID-19 has proved that every dark cloud has a silver lining, and this stands true in case of iSPELL, which during this time stands tall. It has given an opportunity to teachers to redesign, reactivate, and to learn and relearn themselves and adopt the new technologies. Well, ma'am, your talk was very insightful, and it has raised three very important questions which I would like to just point out. That acknowledge as teachers of English that English is no longer the colonial language. It is our language now. It is related to our professional as well as to our personal lives also. The second thing is, well, we say the native speaker. Who is actually the native speaker? This is another debatable question. And when it comes to English, because we when the students come to the colleges or the universities, they are confused with regard to the British pronunciation and the American pronunciation. So today we don't have one English, we have a whole, what you can say, variety of Englishes. And then as students, as teachers, what is expected from us to teach our students? And the third important issue is the role of mother tongue in English learning. And as rightly pointed out by the speaker as well as the chairperson, online learning has changed the educational scenario today. From classroom-based learning, today we have moved on to blended learning, to student-based learning. It is very important that everything revolves around the students, and then we have to design the curriculum, the syllabi, everything, keeping in mind that how the student at his or her pace can learn. And in this context, you may agree or may not agree with me, but I think that the MOOCs and the LMS is become step. And along with that, we need to acknowledge the role of the teacher in classroom learning. Thank you so much for a wonderful Sunday evening. And now we have the honor of presenting the certificates. Dr. Poornima, we are very honored, iSPELL feel honored in presenting you the certificate for being the resource person for today. Thank you so much. And we look forward to listening more from you and becoming an indispensable part of iSPELL. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sudeshna Datta, the chairperson for today's session. We are honored to present this certificate to you. And as I said, in case of Dr. Poornima, we also want you to become a part of iSPELL family.
Sure.
Well, Priyadarshini, wonderful job you have done as MOC, very vibrant, and we are equally honored in presenting the certificate from iSPELL family to you and looking forward to have you on our platform as a member. Thank you. And with this, we invite you for the next iSPELL Sunday Sahitya Satsang to another feast, and special thanks to Jayanti Madam for the wonderful organization of this July event 2020. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Years back, the day of orientation at DFL University, there was a gracious lady sitting next to me with a very beautiful smile, with a very welcoming smile. That was Dr. Jayanti ma'am. And instantly we got a connect, and later we developed with a very beautiful bonding. And still I call her as mummy. And this will be the first forum where I will be addressing her as ma'am. Now I request Dr. S. Jayanti ma'am, to the convener of iSPELL Tamil Nadu Forum, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Priyadarshini. A grateful heart is a magnet for miracles, and I am inviting miracles my way through my thankfulness towards all those who made this day a success. My immense gratitude is turned towards our esteemed General Secretary of iSPELL India Forum, Professor Ghanshyamji, for creating the wonderful platform and allowing us to showcase our knowledge and thus benefit the society at large. Thank you so much, sir. I humbly thank the executive committee members of iSPELL India, Professor Anupama Ora ma'am, that is President, the Vice Presidents, Professor Prashanta Chakrabarti and Professor Ashok Chachdeva, and the Joint Secretaries, Professor Murli Krishnan, Professor Payal Datta, and Mr. Rakesh Digraskar, and the other members for their kindness and magnanimity in supporting us in all our endeavors. I profess my gratitude to our beloved IT coordinator, Professor Pramod Dengle, for being there always. Thank you so much, sir. I humbly thank Anupama Ora ma'am, President iSPELL India Forum, for giving the concluding remarks and distributing the certificates. Thank you so much, ma'am. I magnanimously thank Dr. Poornima for her illuminating experiential session. Ma'am, kindly accept my apology for causing a little disturbance in the beginning of the session by making a move from one place to the other. But this was perfect, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. And now I should thank my dear friend Indrani for introducing me to you. And without her, we would not be having you here in this session. Yes, yes. I thank you for readily agreeing to our session, ma'am. I thank the Almighty at this juncture again. You have taken us into a journey of our teaching learning process down the years. Our own relationships with our learners was brought alive. Chalk and talk. Yes, ma'am. It has a magic and charm of its own. All the technology of all over the world cannot replace it. The necessity to bring the learners to the center is very much needed, and we believe and accept that learning is a continuous process. I am sure, ma'am, we each will develop a rapport and have our own innovative way of teaching to our learners. Yes, ma'am, you are right. A teacher can never be replaced. You have echoed the views of Bhaskar Nair, sir, by saying this. Thank you, ma'am, for your vibrant, personal, emotional deliberation on the topic. I pleasantly present my thanks to Ms. Sudeshna Datta for accepting our invitation to chair the session today, ma'am. Ma'am, you have done your part beautifully by compiling the thoughts of Dr. Poornima and have also put forth your own individualistic views elegantly. Yes, you are true, ma'am. We too are trying to teach English in Tamil to our learners in our state. Thank you, ma'am, for your beautiful acceptance of the reality of today's changing generation. We have to get used to them and we have to uplift ourselves. Thank you, ma'am, for your sharing the session. I thank Dr. Saurabh Banerjee, iSPELL West Bengal Forum, my new friend, for introducing Sudeshna Datta ma'am to us. Thank you, sir. With the appreciation and love, I warmly look upon Ms. Priyadarshini for having done a wonderful job by doing the Master of Ceremonies without any hesitance. You have done it beautifully, dear. Thank you. Thank you so much. Finally, but full-heartedly, my thanks for the participants for their wholesome presence on this Sunday, with the hope that we are all leaving this platform with something more than what we joined 2 hours back. I once again thank you one and all for your patience. Thank you so much.